Yes. Om Jnanarandasya Gyanasalakeya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Vishnu Yena Bhutale Bhutpatyam Dadati Sapadam Vandeham Shri Guruho Srivata Padram Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitantam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsha Namo Padaya Krishna Preshnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namne Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurava Vichariणे Shashmavadi Paschati Deshatariणे Panchakalpatru Kripa Sindhu Evsha Patitanam Pavanindhu Vaishnavedo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavaya Krishna Premchaya Hare Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namini Namaha Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Vajakatpate Shagopika Kantara Lakshana Kanchan Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Ismanu Suchai Devi Pranamami Hari Vinachal Nivasaya Nityaya Paramatmane Nam Jagannathaaya Te Nam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Srivasa Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We all welcome Anant Gaur Sundar Prabhu. We would like to introduce all the students here about Prabhu. Prabhu Anant Gaur, His Grace Anant Gaur Sundar Prabhu, he joined in 2004 and he joined as full time in 2009 in ISKCON Calcutta, and he has been preaching in many of the renowned educational institutes like IIT Kharagpur and Jamshedpur and BITS and Ranchi. And he holds a degree in bachelor's and master's from IIT Kharagpur. And also he was selected in NASA, which is one of the very renowned civil space program for aeronautics and astronomy research. And he's been teaching Shastri courses with Mayapur Institute since 2017. He's been teaching Bhakti Shastri and Bhakti Vaibhav. And he's also running a Sunday school in ISKCON Calcutta, New Town, with 175 students. And he himself is going to complete his Bhaktivedanta soon. And there are very few Bhaktivedantas in the whole ISKCON, and he is one of them. And he's been preaching very extensively in ISKCON Calcutta and also giving a lot of online Shastri courses. So we all are very happy to have Prabhu with us, and he'll be taking us through the Canto 3 of our Bhakti Vaiva program. Hare Krishna.
So we had completed, we are going to start from this verse, first chapter.
Verse number 17, Prabhuji.
17.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll go through the translations, the first four, and the important parts. Verse number 17. Vidras travels to the pilgrim. So we had seen that how Vidura, he was like chastised very heavily by Guru, that he is a son of a kept mistress, and he should be immediately thrown out of the palace only with his life. And Vidura took it as a mercy of the Lord. And the reason is, as Gopal speaks, that actually Vidura didn't want to take shelter of the Lord. So initially in the previous life, as Yamraj, he had to deal with all sort of sinful people, give them punishments, something which is not desired by devotees at all. So this was like a thankless task. And by Krishna's grace, he was cursed by Hindu community to become a son of a, and that is why he came as Vidura. But even as Vidura, he had to take care of these political affairs. So now it was an opportunity for him to so now we get the 70. The rest travels to the pilgrimage. Then one.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, we are not able to hear you properly.
Just a minute. I think now I must be clear. Am I clear to devotees now?
Yes,
Yes.
Prabhuji. Thank
Okay.
you.
So we will go through this verses, translation, and the purports. So we can start from text number 17. So these are Vidura's travels to pilgrimages.
So we shall read.
Yes,
the
yes.
passage. Text 17. By his piety, Vidura achieved the advantages of the pious Kauravas. After leaving Hastinapur, he took shelter of many places of pilgrimages, which are Lord's lotus feet. With a desire to gain a high order of pious life, he traveled to holy places, where thousands of transcendental forms of the Lord are situated. Purport. Vidura was undoubtedly a highly elevated and pious soul. Otherwise, he would not have taken his birth in the Kaurava family. To have high parentage, to possess wealth, to be highly learned, and to have great personal beauty are all due to past pious acts. But such pious positions are not sufficient for obtaining the grace of the Lord and being engaged in his transcendental loving service. Vidura considered himself less pious, and therefore he decided to travel to all the other great places of pilgrimage in the world in order to achieve greater piety and advance nearer to the Lord. At that time, Lord Krishna was personally present in the world, and Vidura could have at once approached him directly, but he did not do so because he was not sufficiently freed from sin. One cannot be 100% devotee of the Lord unless and until he is completely free from all effects of sin. Vidura was conscious that by the association of the diplomatic Dhritarashtra and the Duryodhana, he had lost his piety and was therefore not fit to associate at once with the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 7:28, this is confirmed in the following verse. येषां त्वन्तगतं पापं ज्ञानां पुण्यकर्मणां ते द्वन्द्वमोहनिर्मुक्ता भजन्ते मां दृढव्रता. Persons who are sinful, asuras like Kamsa and Jarasandh, cannot think of Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth. Only those who are pure devotees, those who follow the regulatory principles of religious life as prescribed in the scriptures, are able to engage themselves in Karma Yoga and then Jnana Yoga, and thereafter by pure meditation can understand pure consciousness. When God consciousness is developed, one can take advantage of the association of pure devotees. Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Sevanat. One is able to associate with the Lord even during the existence of this life. Places of pilgrimages are meant for eradicating the sins of the pilgrims, and they are distributed all over the universe just to give facility to all concerned for attaining pure existence and God realization. One should not be satisfied, however, merely by visiting the places of pilgrimage and performing one's prescribed duties. He should be eager to hear, to meet the great souls who are already there, engaged in the service of the Lord. In each and every place of pilgrimage, the Lord is present in his various transcendental forms. These forms are called Archamurtis, or the forms of the Lord, which can be easily appreciated by the common man. The Lord is transcendental to our mundane senses. He cannot be seen with our present eyes, nor can he be heard with our present ears. To the degree that we have entered into the service of the Lord, or to the proportion that our lives are freed from sins, we can perceive the Lord. But even though we are not free from sins, the Lord is kind enough to allow us the facility of seeing Him in His Archamurtis in the temple. The Lord is all powerful, and therefore He is able to accept our service by presentation of His archer form. No one, therefore, should foolishly think that the archer in the temple to be an idol. Such an archamurti is not an idol, but the Lord Himself, and to the proportion that one is free from sins, he is able to know the significance of the archamurti. The guidance of a pure devotee is therefore always required. In the land of Bharatvarsha, there are many hundreds and thousands of places of pilgrimage distributed all over the country, and by traditional practice, the common man visits such holy places during all seasons of the year. Some of the archer representations of the Lord's situation in different places of pilgrimage are mentioned herewith. The Lord is present at Mathura, the birthplace of Krishna, as Adi Keshava. The Lord is present at Puri, Orissa, as Lord Jagannath, also known as Purushottama. He is present at Allahabad, Prayag, as Bindu Madhava. At Mandara Hill, he is present as Madhusudana. In the Anandaranya, he is known as Vasudeva, Padmanabha, and Janardhan at Vishnu Kanchi. He is known as Vishnu, and at Mayapur, he is known as Hari. There are millions and billions of such archer forms of Lord distributed all over the universe. All these archamurtis are summarized in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the following words: Sarvatra Prakasha Tanra, Bhakte Sukhadite, Jagatera Adharma Nashi Dharma Sthapite. The Lord has so distributed Himself all over the universe just to give pleasure to the devotees, to give the common man facility to eradicate his sins, and to establish religious principles in the world.
Hare Hare. So, what are those two things or two benefits which one gets by visiting the holy places as per this purport?
Association of devotees, exalted devotee.
And what does association mean as per this purport? Well, not very difficult. Something which you are already doing. Currently, what are you doing?
Hearing, Prabhuji, hearing.
So hearing from devotees. So this is one thing. What is the second benefit which we get when we visit the holy places? So am I not audible? Please, Mata is writing that.
Association of devotees.
It's clear.
Association of devotees will do.
So now devotees are hearing from them. And one more benefit, Prabhupada, are written very graphically, which we get by visiting
Darshans of the Lord in the Archamurti forms.
Archa Vigraha. So we get an opportunity to see different Archa Vigraha, different forms of the Lord, and we get an opportunity to hear from the devotees of the Lord. So these are two benefits which we get from the holy places. So one of the reasons sadhus visit the holy places is that so many sadhus visit the holy places. So whenever you go to a holy place, you always get an opportunity to hear from some sadhus. And second benefit which we get is to get darshan of the different forms of the Lord, which are considered very, very attractive. So whenever Lord comes and performs His pastimes, it is considered like a flood. So whenever flood comes, highlands and lowlands are not visible. Everything becomes submerged underwater. But whenever the flood recedes, there is water only at the lowlands, not at the highlands. So similarly, when Lord comes and performs His pastimes, it's like a flood. Lord is doing, there, continuously doing different pastimes. But when Lord goes back to Godhead, to his abode, then what happens is, then there are certain forms of the Lord which remain in the minds of devotees. They are very, very attractive forms. All such forms are written in the Silp Shastras, the scriptures, and deities are made according to them, according to those details. So these forms of the Lord are very, very attractive to the devotees. And whenever we take darshan of these deities, it is like taking darshan of the Lord himself. So that is how we get benefit by visiting the holy places. So even if today we'll find that people at different holy places, there are many residents there. Every day they go to different temples and take darshan of the Lord. So this is something which they do. And they hear Srimad Bhagavatam, chant the holy names. So that is the benefit of visiting the holy places. So this is one of the reasons Mayapur is called Hari Chitra. So the predominating deity of Mayapur is Hari. Okay. So now somebody can read 18, 19 and 20.
He began to travel alone, thinking only of Krishna through various holy places like Ayodhya, Dwarka, Mathura, and he traveled where the grove, hill, orchard, river, and the lakes are all pure and sinless, and where the forms of the unlimited decorate the temples. Thus he performed the pilgrimage progress. 19th. While he was traversing the earth, he simply performed the duties to please the Supreme Lord Hari. His occupation was pure and independent. He was constantly sanctified by taking his bath in holy places, although he was in the dress of meditant and had no hair dressing or nor a bed on which to lie. Thus he was always unseen by his various relatives. 20th. Thus he was in the land of Bharat Varsha, traveling to all the places of pilgrimage, and he visited Prabhashekar. At that time, Maharaj Yudhishthir was the emperor and held the world under one military strength and one flag.
Hari Hari. So Pravas Kshetra is the area near Dwarka from where Lord disappeared from this world. And at that place, Saraswati meets the ocean. So what he did, he was traveling all over the earth and he was maintaining himself by Midya. Midya means through begging. So when begging is done by Vanprasthas and Sannyasis, Grasthas are not never supposed to beg. Even Brahmanas are not supposed to beg. Brahmanas, they render the service and by that they get charity. So that is called Dakshina. Whereas just begging is called Dan. So if somebody is just taking alms without rendering service, then that is called Dan. And Dan may have sometimes sins. But when somebody does begging only for the purpose of maintaining his body, that's all. No storage. So one who just begs for the purpose of maintaining his body so that one can perform devotion service. So then such a begging is called pure. And that karma is not there. So he was doing like that. Then he was bathing in different holy places, Sadaprutaha. In this way he purified himself. And if he touched anything impure, he would take bath again. And then he was chanting different mantras, like Gayatri mantra, etc., to purify himself. And he didn't decorate his body. That's why he's called Avduta. So either renunciates, which means Vanprasthas and Sannyasis also, they would either shave their head, or they would have long hairs. They didn't care for it. So in this way he was, wearing tree bark, Avdhuta Vesaha. And because of being dressed like that, he was not even recognized by his relatives. Even relatives who were in pilgrimage, they couldn't recognize him. And by that time, already Mahabharata war was over, because this episode happened of Duryodhan happened before Mahabharata. But by this time, Mahabharata war was over, and Yudhishthir Maharaj was the emperor of the whole world. So that's why this entire creation was under one umbrella or one army, Ek Chakram. And that is how, that is the time he entered this Prabhas Chitra, the place where Saraswati river flows in the western direction and meets the ocean, Arabian Ocean nowadays, we call it. Okay. So now we'll see further what happens. So earlier day there was one emperor, and under him there were small kings. So emperor was Yudhishthira Maharaj at this time. Yes, somebody can read 21, 22 and 23.
Text 21. At the place of pilgrimage at Prabhas, it came to his knowledge that all his relatives had died due to violent passion, just as an entire forest burns due to the fire produced by the friction of bamboos. After this, he proceeded west, where the river Saraswati flows. Text 22. On the bank of river Saraswati, there were 11 places of pilgrimage, namely Tirtha, Shana, Manu, Agni, Asita, Ayo, Sadasha, Goa, and Shraddha Deva. Vidra visited all of them and duly performed rituals. Text 23. There were also many other temples of various forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, established by great sages and demigods. These temples are marked with chief emblems of the Lord, and they reminded one always of the original personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna.
Very. So in this way, he visited Prabhas Chitra, and in the Prabhas Chitra, he also visited different holy other places. Other holy places like Tirtha, Usna, Manu, etc. There are different places, 11 places. And he also visited different temples of the Lord, which are marked with different emblems of the Lord. So they are like Chakra, or we have Garuna Dhwaja, a flag with mark of Garuna. That is the flag of Lord Jagannath. So just by seeing those markings, one remembers the Supreme Lord. Somebody knows how Lord Chaitanya established that seeing those emblems is as good as seeing the Lord? Or to whom did he say? Somebody remembers the episode? Something from Chaitanya Charitamrita?
Can I try?
Yes, yes.
Just by seeing the chakra, Sudarshana, so we get the it's like seeing the Lord himself, Lord Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra. It's the same in terms of having darshan also, and in terms of getting benefited also. The same benefit devotee gets, because there is a rule in Jagannath that except Hindus, no one can enter into the temple. So for the other of the devotees, of course, Jagannath comes once in a year, but yes, Chakra also, but whole year except Rath Yatra times. So Sudarshan gives the same benefit.
Yeah. So there were two devotees, or at least one devotee, remember, who would just take the, two devotees, you can say, 2 or 3 devotees, who would just take the darshan of the Chakra and they won't enter the temple. Who are they?
Haridas Thakur?
Haridas Thakur. And Rupa and Sanatan also. So Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, they would consider themselves very fallen, the very reason why Vidura would consider himself fallen. So Vidura would consider himself very fallen because he was associating with Duryodhan and Dhritarashtra and all these people. Similarly, Rupa and Sanatan would consider themselves very fallen, although they were like great scholars of Srimad Bhagavatam, for the very reason because they were serving under Nawab Hussain Shah. So, Sudra means he serves under, those who take job are called Sudras. Now, Sudras means they work under Brahman, Kshatriya or Vaishya. But one is not supposed to work under Malechas and Yavanas. So those who serve under Malechas and Yavanas are considered very fallen. And nowadays, many of the MNCs are owned by them only. And people with great pride say, oh, I'm working in this company, I'm working in that company. So, but Rupa and Sanatana would consider themselves very fallen. And that is the reason they won't even go from the gate of Jagannath Puri. Because they would think themselves so much fallen, they thought that if our shadows touch the pujaris of Pandas of Jagannath, they would become contaminated. So that is why from very far away distance, they would take darshan of Chakra, and in this way remember Jagannath. But Lord Jagannath himself, his Lord Chaitanya, would come every day to Haridas Thakur to offer him prasad. So that is how humility is such a thing which purchases the Lord, the quality of humility. See, many times people fight that, no, we want to go and take darshan. But then, does Lord want to take your darshan? So it is devotional qualities which attract the Lord. Only if we have those qualities will Krishna be eager to see us. Although we may be very eager to see. So we can learn that from Vidura as well as Rup, Sanatan and Haridas Thakur. Yes. So somebody would read 24th translation purport.
Hare Krishna. Thereafter, he passed through very wealthy provinces like Surat, Sovira, and Matsya, and through western India, known as Kurujangla. At last, he reached the bank of the Yamuna, where he happened to meet Uddhav, the great devotee of Lord Krishna. Purport. The tract of land comprising about 100 square miles from modern Delhi to the Mathura district in Uttar Pradesh, including a portion of the Gurgaon district in Punjab, East India, is considered to be the topmost place of pilgrimage in all of India. This land is sacred because Lord Krishna traveled through it many times from the very beginning of his appearance. He was at Mathura in the house of his maternal uncle Kansa, and he was reared by his foster father Maharaj Nanda at Vrindavan. There are still many devotees of the Lord lingering there in ecstasy in search of Krishna and his childhood associates, the gopis. It is not that such devotees meet Krishna face to face in that tract of land, but the devotees eagerly searching after Krishna is as good as his seeing him personally. How this is so cannot be explained, but it is factually realized by those who are pure devotees of the Lord. Philosophically, one can understand that Lord Krishna and his remembrance are on the absolute plane, and that the very idea of searching for him at Vrindavan in pure God consciousness gives more pleasure to the devotee than seeing him face to face. Such devotees of the Lord see him face to face at every moment, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santah Sadaiva Hideshu Vilokayanti Yam Sham Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adi Purisham Tam Aham Bhaja. Those who are in ecstasy of love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead with Sham Sundara see him always in their hearts due to love and devotional service rendered to the Lord. Both Vidura and Uddhava were such elevated devotees, and therefore they both came to the bank of Yamuna and met each other.
So, in this particular purport, we find that Prabhupada is glorifying the place where many of you are sitting with, the place of Gurgaon. Gurgaon is also mentioned by Prabhupada. and Delhi, Mathura, and especially Mathura and Vrindavan. And devotees who they generally become very eager to take that from the Lord there. And being eager to see the Lord is as good as seeing the Lord. Because when our minds are absorbed in Krishna, we are with Krishna. Okay. So now somebody can read 25th translation also.
Hare Krishna. Then, due to his great love and feeling, Vidura embraced him, Uddhava, who was a constant companion of Lord Krishna and formerly a great student of Brahaspati's. Vidura then asked him for news of the family of Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Translation: please tell me whether the original personalities of Godhead, who incarnated themselves at the request of Brahma, who is born out of the lotus flower from the Lord, and who have increased the prosperity of the world by elevating everyone, are doing well in the house of Shursena.
Yeah. So here we find that Vidura tightly embraced Uddhava, who was previously the student of Brahaspati. So although Vidura embraced Uddhava, Uddhava didn't respond, rather he fainted. And what was his first question? So now this inquiry of Vidura about Yadus and Kurus from Uddhava. So Uddhava immediately starts asking about Krishna. The eternal Krishna and Balaram who appeared through the prayers of Brahma and who are producing auspiciousness everywhere, are they living happily in the house of Vasudeva? Because devotees are happy only when Krishna is happy. And that is the reason he first starts asking about Krishna. So Krishna and Balaram, although they are eternally well, but it is out of love that Vidura was asking whether they are okay or not, they are happy or not. So that is how he directly starts asking about Krishna. Please read 27, 28, 29.
Please tell me whether the best friend of the Kurus, our brother-in-law Vasudev, doing well. He is very munificent. He is like a father to his sisters, and he is always pleasing to his wives. O Uddhava, please tell me, who is Pradyumna, the commander-in-chief of the Yadus, who was the Cupid in his former life? Rukmini bore him as her son from Lord Krishna by the grace of Brahmanas, whom she pleased. O my friend, tell me whether Ugrasen, the king of Shatvas, Vrishnis, Bhojas, and Dashrahas, is not doing well. He went far away from his kingdom, leaving aside all hopes of his royal throne, but Lord Krishna again installed him.
Yeah. So then he starts asking about Vasudev, Devaki. Devaki is like connected to Kunti. Through Kunti she is connected, Vasudev's sister. And Vasudev, who had a great affection for Kunti, so she is also mentioned. So then he starts asking. So Vidura, he does not ask the question in proper order. Generally, it is like that. No, one has to ask from the elderly person and then younger and younger and younger and younger. But he was not asking in proper order because he was very emotional. And he had a suspicion, or he knew that Krishna has left this planet. And that is why he starts asking randomly. So he was asking, how is Kamdev, which is Pradyumna? Kamdev is Ananga and he reappears as Pradyumna. So how is he? And how are Rukmini and other Brahmanas are there. So in this way, he was asking regarding wives of Krishna, sons of Krishna, and other Dwarkavasis, how were they? And then he starts asking about Ugrasen also. Okay. Yes, please read 30, 31 and 32.
Oh, Uddhava, thus Yudhana farewell. He learned the intricacies of the military art from Arjuna and attained a transcendental destination which is very difficult to reach even for a great renouncers. Please tell me whether Akrura, the son of Swapalka, is doing well. He is a faultless soul surrendered unto the personality of Godhead. He once lost his mental equilibrium due to his ecstasy of transcendental love and fell down on the dust of a road which was marked with the footprints of Lord Krishna.
Yeah. So how is Samba, who is born from Kartikeya? Kartikeya is son of Shiva and Parvati. And then he starts asking about Yudhan, who was so expert that when the entire Kaurava army was arranged in the needle formation, he crossed over the entire army within few minutes. So he's such an expert. And he was a trained person by Arjuna. And what about Akrura, who had so much love for Krishna that he started rolling on the dust of Vrindavan as soon as he entered in the land of Vrindavan. So there is one very specific thing we'll find, we'll note down in when Akrura was asking about different personalities. So can you note something which is like very special when he was he's asking regarding different people, different devotees? Some common thread you can get everywhere. So maybe devotees can think for 1 minute and then answer.
Krishna? The count factor is Krishna.
Okay. So he's asking regarding Krishna's family. So Krishna is the center. Yeah. Yes. Some other answer? This is also the right answer. The devotees don't want to attempt. So can I repeat the question? So my question was, can you find some pattern in repeating pattern in the glorification of, or I would say the way
He's basically giving kind of an introduction or some characteristic of that respective personality when he's asking like
and what is this characteristics? Means some specialty about those characteristics which he's mentioning everywhere.
Prabhuji, can you say love and affection?
Okay, love and affection is there, certainly.
I guess spiritual seekers.
Okay.
Like in case of Vidura and in case of one more devotee, he was like, he guided him.
Okay. Okay. So you are almost near. So he was basically, we'll find, he's mentioning about the good qualities of his devotee or some remarkable quality of a devotee. And this is actually, this shows that how much appreciation Vidura had for each one of them. So that is why, especially not in the initial days, but because all of you are doing Bhakti Yoga, means devotees have been practicing since many years. And especially devotees who remain very close to the devotee community, there's one challenge. Challenge is that we start seeing the faults of devotees. So initially people come, they are like, no, everybody is pure devotee, we pay obeisances to everyone. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, as if now everybody has fallen from the Vaikuntha. But as the years pass, we start seeing the faults in devotees. But we can see something remarkable within Vidura is that he is remembering the good qualities of his devotee when he's asking about them. He's not saying, oh, this is a fellow, who stole Prasad, Mahaprasad. He's a person who speaks very sharply. He doesn't mention all these things. He mentions the good qualities of each of the devotees. So that is how we have to train our mind and senses. Very big challenge actually. If we can do that, then we can become a Madhyamadhikari. So a Madhyamadhikari is one who knows how to deal with the devotees. So we find this particular characteristics in Vidura that he is mentioning the good qualities of each and every devotee. So when we reflect back and think about devotees, what should enter in the mind is the remarkable spiritual qualities of those devotees. So that is what we find here in Vidura. Okay. So 32 had a purport also. Okay, somebody can read the purport. 32nd purport.
When Akrura came to Vrindavan in search of Krishna, he saw the footprints of the Lord on the dust of Nandagram, and at once fell on them in ecstasy of transcendental love. This ecstasy is possible for a devotee who is fully absorbed in incessant thoughts of Krishna. Such a pure devotee of the Lord is naturally faultless because he is always associated with the supreme pure personality of Godhead. Constant thought of the Lord is the antiseptic method for keeping oneself free from the infectious contamination of the material qualities. The pure devotee of the Lord is always in company with the Lord by thinking of him. Yet, in the particular context of time and place, the transcendental emotions take a different turn, and this breaks the mental equilibrium of the devotee. Lord Chaitanya displayed the typical example of transcendental ecstasy, as we can understand from the life of this incarnation of God.
Hari Hari. So Akrura is considered the personification of the one of the limbs of bhakti. So he is a perfect example for which limb of bhakti? Out of 9 limbs of bhakti, all of your Bhakti Shastri pass out students?
Prabhuji, Atma Nivedanam.
No. Bali Maharaj is for Atma Nivedana.
Prabhuji, Vandanam.
Vandanam.
Yes, Vandanam. Thank you. So in Isupnishat, I think it's Isupnishat. Yes, Isupnishat Prabhupada writes. So his personification of Vandanam. And also he is an exemplary person to tell the process of entering the Dham. So with what consciousness we should enter the Dham is also personified by Akrura. So he was like remembering, okay, if I enter and go towards Vrindavan, then I'll see the footprints of Krishna, I'll roll on the dust of Vrindavan, I'll pray to the Lord. When I reach the doorsteps of Nanda Maharaj, then Krishna and Balaram will come outside to receive me. I'll fall at their feet. Balaram will bless me by putting his head above my head. And whatever details he was remembering or expecting, Krishna and Balaram reciprocated in exactly the same way. That we will find in the Bhagavata. So that is why when we go to the Dham, we have to prepare ourselves to get the benefit of the Dham. Otherwise, we go in an accident and sometimes we meet an accident there in the sense that some trouble comes and then the whole time goes in that resolving that trouble. So Akrura is the perfect example for that also. Also, I was supposed to mention in text number 30, which I didn't mention, that like Kartikeya being in the body of Samba is just Ansa. Ansa means expansion of Kartikeya. So there were two personalities in the eternal associates of the Lord. One is a demigod counterpart and one is the eternal associate of the Lord. It's like two SIM in one mobile. So in this way, the ansas of different demigods got an opportunity to associate with the pure devotees of the Lord. And also, when the Mosa Leela, in which Krishna's family members they kill each other, it was performed by the demigod counterparts, not the eternal associates of the Lord. Eternal associates of the Lord stayed back in Dwaraka and they entered in the uppercut Leela of the Lord. That means Leela which is available even now also. So that is how this is explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his purports. So I just forgot to mention those details. Okay. Somebody can read 33, 30. Okay, Jagat Mata, Sisi Mata.
Yes, Guruji, I have a question from purport of 32. Just Prabhupada is writing the transcendental emotion take a different turn and this breaks the mental equilibrium of the devotee. What is
So you want to understand its meaning?
yes, how what Prabhupada, I just want to elaborate.
Okay. So what happens is, like people of this world become crazy when emotions are very heavy. They behave in some unexpected ways. Similarly, when one gets spiritual emotions, then also one becomes a sort of crazy in one sense. Like if somebody ordinarily would have seen Uddhava, somebody jumping from the car and rolling on the dust, people will think this fellow is crazy. But Uddhava was rolling on the dust by jumping off from his chariot because of the surge of spiritual emotions by seeing the Krishna's lotus feet. So that is what is Prabhupada is mentioning here. So that breaks the mental equilibrium. Person behaves in a crazy way. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So we are done till 32. Please read 33, 34, and 35.
As the Vedas are the reservoir of sacrificial purposes, so the daughter of the king Devaki Bhoj conceived the supreme personality of Godhead in her womb, as did the mother of demigods. Is she Devaki is doing well? May I inquire whether Aniruddha is doing well? He is the fulfiller of the all desires of the pure devotees and has been considered from yore to be the cause of Rigveda, the creator of the mind, and the fourth planetary expansion of Vishnu. O sober one, others such as Ridike, Charudishna, Gada, and the son of Satyabhama, who accept Lord Shri Krishna as the soul of the self and thus follow his path without deviation, are they well?
Yeah. So all these devotees are asking whether they are well or not well. Yes. Please continue reading 36, 37, 38.
Also, let me inquire whether Maharaj Yudhishthir is now maintaining the kingdom according to religious principles and with respect for the path of the religion. Formerly, Duryodhan was burning with envy because Yudhishthir was being protected by the arms of Krishna and Arjuna as if they were his own arms. Please tell me whether the unconquerable Bhima, who is like Cobra, has released his long cherished anger upon the sinner. The field of battle could not tolerate even the wonderful playing of his club when he stepped on the path. Please tell me whether Arjuna, whose bow bears the name Gandiva and who is always famous amongst the chariot warriors for vanquishing his enemies, is doing well. He once satisfied Lord Shiva by conquering him with the arrows when Shiva came as an unidentified false hunter.
Yeah. So he's asking about now. He has finished asking about the Dwarkavasis. Now he begins asking about Hastinapurvasis, who are also very dear to the Lord. So he was asking that Yudhishthir, is he doing well? Bhima, he was so powerful that wherever Bhima would go, he would just catch the trunk of the elephants, bring them like that, throw them in the air. So when warriors were fighting, they would look at the sky. Is elephant coming down to me? So that was powerful Bhima. Is he okay? And Arjuna, who satisfied him Lord Shiva by his archery, is he also doing good? So he starts asking about all these people. Yes, please read 39, 40, 41.
Are the twin brothers who are protected by their brothers doing well? Just as the eye is always protected by the eyelid, they are protected by the sons of Pritha, who snatched back their rightful kingdom from the hands of their enemy Duryodhan, just as Garra snatched nectar from the mouth of Indra, the thunderbolt carrier. O my lord, is Pritha still living? She lived only for the sake of her fatherless children. Otherwise, it was impossible for her to live without King Pandu, who was the greatest commander and who alone conquered the 4 directions simply with the help of his second bow. Text 41. O gentle one, I simply lament for him, Dhritarashtra, who rebelled against his brother after death. By him, I was driven out of my own house, although I am his sincere well-wisher, because he accepted the line of action adopted by his own sons.
Yeah. She was asking regarding Nakul Sahadev, are they okay? Is Pritha, that is Kunti, is she okay? And then he starts, but I am lamenting for Dhritarashtra. And there's something amazing about Vidura. Although Dhritarashtra drove away Vidura from his palace, but Vidura was still his well-wisher. So this is a Vaishnava behavior we can find in the character of Vidura. So the same person, because for Kshatriyas, especially those who are big ministers and Kshatriyas, defame is worse than death. But Vidura not only just bore the or tolerated the defame, he was still well-wisher of Dhritarashtra. See, many times with us, it's easier to forget a person who has offended us. Okay, not leave him. But to be his well-wisher, despite being offended, is very difficult. So this shows the character of Vidura. He was such a great devotee. Okay. So please read 42nd translation and the purport.
I am not astonished at this, having traveled over the world without being seen by others. The activities of the personality of Godhead, which are like those of men in the mortal world, are bewildering to others. But I know of his greatness by his grace, and thus I am happy in all respects. Purport. Although he was the brother of Dhritarashtra, Vidura was completely different. By the grace of Lord Krishna, he was not foolish like his brother, and thus his brother's association could not influence him. Dhritarashtra and his materialistic sons wanted to falsely lord it over the worldly by dint of their own strength. The Lord encouraged them in this, and thus they became more and more bewildered. But Vidura wanted to achieve sincere devotional service of the Lord, and therefore became a soul absolutely surrendered to the absolute personality of Godhead. He could realize this in the progress of his pilgrim's journey and thus he was freed from all doubts. He was not at all sorry to be bereft of his hearth and home, because he now had experienced that dependence on the mercy of the Lord is a greater freedom than so-called freedom at home. A person should not be in the renounced order of life unless he is firmly convinced of being protected by the Lord. This stage of life is explained in Bhagavad Gita as Abhayam. Abhayam Sattva Sansuddhi. Every living entity is factually completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord, but unless one is in the pure state of
Existence.
pure existence, he cannot be established in this position. This stage of dependence is called Sattva Samshuddhi, or purification of one's existence. The result of such purification is exhibited in fearlessness. A devotee of the Lord who is called Narayana Para is never afraid of anything because he is always aware of the fact that the Lord protects him in all circumstances. With this conviction, Vidura traveled alone and he was not seen or recognized by any friend or foe. Thus, he enjoyed freedom of life without obligation to the many duties of the world. When Lord Sri Krishna was personally present in the mortal world in his eternal blissful form of Sham Sundar, those who were not pure devotees of the Lord could not recognize him or know his glories. Avajanati mam mudha manushim tanum ashritam. Bhagavad Gita 9.11. He is always bewildering to the non-devotees, but he is always seen by the devotees by dint of their pure devotional service to him.
Yeah, thank you. So in this way, Abhayam Sakta Samsuddhi. So there are 4 needs in the human life: eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Among them, the defending is the topmost. First, a person defends himself, becomes fearless, and then other needs come. And that is why, especially sannyasis, for them the basic qualification is Abhayam. Abhayam means they should be fearless and they should know Krishna will protect me, Krishna will maintain me. And those who are able to experience that grace of the Lord, that protection of the Lord, they are in complete enjoyment. Because they know that Krishna is my maintainer, Krishna is all powerful, and Krishna loves me more than I love myself. Anybody who is convinced of these 3 things will never have any anxiety in life. It's like somebody is very powerful, but he is not our friend. He can be a cause of fear. Somebody is friend, but doesn't have power. Of course, he is our friend. We are getting some emotional support, but we can't get much benefit. But somebody is our friend, our well-wisher, and he is extremely powerful, rather all-powerful. He is a supreme controller. And if you depend on him, then there is no anxiety in life. So somebody who is convinced about it, such a person can live life of freedom. He has no anxiety in his life. So that was Vidura. Vidura was fully dependent on the Lord. He knew that Krishna, if he wants, he will protect me. Main important thing is that really Krishna loves us more than we love ourselves. So we can't love ourselves, we can't love anyone else in this world as much as Krishna loves us and everyone in the world. So if you are convinced about it, then there is no fear at all. So Prabhupada is talking about protection, but we find many times devotees also, they leave their bodies. Right? During Corona time, especially in the Delhi community, practically every day there was a news that this devotee is leaving, that devotee leaving his body. So what do we understand about Krishna's protection from that? Somebody would like to comment? This is something which all of you experienced in your community. So where the question of Krishna's protection, we find devotees also leave their bodies. Yes, Rukmani Harisevni Mataji.
As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that their devotees know that where they are going. So Krishna is, everybody wants to, at least it's a desire of a devotee to go back home, back to Godhead, and in this very lifetime. So when the time comes, so devotee thinks like, yes, this is the Krishna calls, that yes, he's calling by the mercy of Guru, and he can go back to home, back to Godhead.
Yeah. So there's something amazing. We find devotees, when they leave their body, other devotees, many times they sing kirtans and they dance, enjoy. Whereas in outside world, you'll see people cry. So when we talk about protection means Krishna will award us what is best for us. What is best for us. Although externally we may not be able to understand how what is happening with devotees is good. Like some of the departs of devotees were very confusing. I knew one of the devotees very sincere and like personification of Seva Bhav, such a service attitude. So everybody loved him. He was newly married with 2 small daughters. So when he left his body, it was like many devotees were distraught. They were like thinking, oh my God, no, how can it happen? How can Krishna do like that? But his own brother-in-law, wife's brother, he was also a devotee. So he was next to him. So at when he was departing, suddenly spoke, no, oh Krishna, oh Govinda. And it's like, and that is how he departed. So although externally speaking, it was like a thunderbolt on the family, but Krishna took care. Krishna saw that now there is special well-being for this devotee. So that is how Krishna does protect, but in his own way, whatever is best for the devotee. Okay. So now somebody can read 43, 44, 45. Yeah. Please read 43, 44, and 45.
Despite his being the Lord and being always willing to relieve the distress of sufferers, he, Krishna, refrained from killing the Kurus, although they committed all sorts of sins, and although he saw other kings constantly agitating the earth by their strong military movements, carried out under the dictation of 3 kinds of false pride. The appearance of the Lord is manifested for the annihilation of the upstarts. His activities are transcendental and are enacted for the understanding of all persons. Otherwise, since the Lord is transcendental to all material modes, what purpose could he serve by coming to earth? O my friend, please therefore chant the glories of the Lord, who is meant to be glorified in the places of pilgrimage. He is unborn, and yet he appears by his causeless mercy upon the surrendered rulers of all parts of the universe. Only for their interest did he appear in the family of his unallied devotees, the Yadus.
Yeah. Thank you. We find that Krishna refrained from killing the Pandavas, sorry, not Pandavas, the Kauravas, the entire Kuru army. And the reason is, one of the reasons certainly is that Krishna took one prastha by that time. So he was not supposed to lift the weapons. And what is another famous reason why, which Prabhupada mentions at many places, that why Krishna didn't participate in the war. In Bhagavad Gita also it comes many times.
Because he want Arjuna to be glorified.
Yeah. So, somebody remember the analogy which Krishna gives? Sorry, Prabhupada gives in his purports? Some analogy of father and son. Okay. So Prabhupada gives
there's one where Prabhupada writes that the father keeps on serving the son. I don't remember it exactly, but it goes something like this. The father serves the son, but the son is because the son keeps on demanding something from the father. Similarly, Krishna comes in the form of son to take that loving exchange of father and son. I don't remember it exactly, but it goes something like this.
Okay. So what Prabhupada writes is that father enjoy the success of his son than his own success. That means when the son is glorified, father feels more happy than he personally being glorified. And that is the reason Krishna wanted to give credit to Arjuna, that in the Mahabharata war. He wanted to give credit to Hanumanji in the Ramayana. And when Krishna wanted, he could have killed Jarasandha, but he gave credit to Bhima. Because these all are devotees of the Lord. So Krishna enjoys to give credit to the devotees than keeping the credit for himself. Okay. Now somebody may say, but no, Krishna could have stopped the war. So many millions of soldiers were destroyed in the Mahabharata war. So why did Krishna do like that? It is such a despicable act on the behalf of Krishna. Yes, Rukmini Mataji.
Krishna had to establish dharma, which as Duryodhan was unwantedly, and if there was no war, then Duryodhan would be the king, and it was not for the good for all the citizen, because he was not at all pious and he was not acquiring the qualities of a king, which it should be there in a king. Secondly, and if anybody is dying, as you said, that the person in the opposite party is seeing the lotus face of Krishna. So anyway, that person is going to the spiritual planet. So any which ways, everything happens under the supervision of Supreme Lord Krishna. It happens for good, and it happens for good for all.
Yeah, thank you. So this is exactly the answer which I was looking for, the second one. Because this will come in currently, of course. It's going to come for all of you. Uddhava speaks this particular verse. Tatheva chane naraloka veera ye ahave Krishna mukhar vindam netre pivanto nayanami ramam parthas puta padama purasya tatheva chane naraloka veera ye ahave Krishna mukhar vindam. So these naraloka veera, the warriors in the battle of Kurukshetra, they were looking at the lotus face of Krishna. Now somebody may sing, but because they were having the disease of avidya, which is like jaundice, how can they relish the beauty of Krishna? Parthastra puta. Partha astra puta. They were getting purified by the arrows of Arjuna, Partha. And then they were able to relish the beauty of Krishna. And when they were departing, they were going back to Godhead. Padam apurasya. So all of them went back to Godhead. So that's why Krishna seemingly caused a great devastation in the whole Mahabharata war. But he gave an opportunity to everyone to go back to Godhead. So we have to do so much sadhana. But for them it is like free ticket. So Krishna had like no sovereign mercy. So that is how Krishna actually did a great favor by arranging the battle of Kurukshetra. So this answer which we can give to everyone. Okay, so this is our chapter is over now. So now he starts requesting Vidura to chant or speak Krishna Katha, Hari Katha. Because Hari Katha is the ultimate thing relished by both the devotees who are doing sadhana as well as those who are perfected souls. What is that verse which says that presence of the Lord is felt the most at the places where Hari Katha is sung? Very famous verses. Prabhupada speaks at many places.
Naham tisthami vaikunthe yoginam yadrganti madbhagata tisthami narada.
Yes. This one only, yes. Thank you. So Amran Hari Guru realizes Harikatha. Wherever Harikatha goes on, he enters inside and he hears Krishna Harikatha. And he speaks also very good Harikatha. I heard one of his lecture. So in this way, both the people who are liberated as well as conditioned. So for conditioned people, Harikatha acts like a medicine. And for those who are liberated, it acts like nectar, amrits. So for those who are conditioned, it cures the disease of jaundice. Those who are sadhakas. And for those who are liberated, they relish it like a nectar. So that is what mentioned here. So then of course, our Uddhav can ask, why should Supreme Lord, who is full of knowledge and bliss, involve himself in this world of piety and impiety by killing the Kauravas? So Vidura says that is true. So the Lord appears in this world for two reasons: affection for his devotees and desiring the good for all living beings. And that is what is explained here in this verse, verse number 44. So Lord is not dependent on Maya. He comes by his own yoga Maya. But he is dependent on the love of the devotees. And that is the reason sometimes Lord accepts his devotee as the parents, and sometimes he doesn't need some parents if devotees in that lila don't have the desire. Like for example, Narsimdev, who were the parents of Narsimdev? Who were the parents of Narsimdev?
Pillar.
Pillar only. Yeah. For Varadev, who were the parents of Varadev?
Nose of the Brahma.
Brahma didn't realize that no, somebody came out. So that is how Lord wants, Lord can appear like that. But whenever Lord sees there are some devotees who want to become his mother and father, he fulfills that desire. So there is only one thing which binds the Lord, and that is love of his devotees. So there's only one thing which controls the Lord, that is love for the devotees. Nothing else can control the Lord. So he comes and he performs his different pastimes with the devotees. And in this way, by his different pastimes, he attracts the living entities. And that is how he establishes the dharma of Sravanam Kirtanam. If Lord doesn't come and perform his pastimes, what will we hear, sing, and meditate? So that is the purpose. Paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya cha dushkatam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavam yoga yoga. So Paritranaya sadhunam, he comes to deliver the devotees, but devotees are already delivered. So he comes to deliver the devotees from the fire of separation. So devotees want to be there with Krishna, and he comes to free them from fire separation. Paritrana sadhunam. Vinasaya duskritam. He comes to annihilate the demons. Shiva and Parvati can do that. So he comes to annihilate those demons who are cursed by the devotees to be killed by Krishna. And third one is dharma sansthapanarthaya. So that dharma is the dharma of Sravanam Kirtanam. So he comes for these three purposes. Okay, so these are three purposes for why Krishna descends. So it's 11:20 now. So we'll take a 10 minutes break and then we'll come after 10 minutes and we'll start with the next chapter. Hare Krishna.
वो मेरे को आके बोलेगा माँ start chanting. नीचे से क्या I will do chanting with mom.
Hare Krishna. So we'll start with chapter number 2 now. That is remembrance of Krishna. And this is like one of the very relatable, very rasic chapters. Chapter number 2. So remembrance of Lord Krishna. So in this chapter, verse number 1 to 5, we'll learn about Vidura's renunciation and the inquisitiveness of Parikshit Maharaj. Verse number 6 to 16 discuss about circumstances that led to Vidura's leaving Hastinapur. 70-25 are Vidura's travel to pilgrimages. Then Vidura's inquiries from Uddhava about welfare of the Yadushan Kurus. And Vidura's request to hear about Krishna. So these are the various things which we'll discuss. So beginning with Uddhava's exalted position. So please read verse number 1, 2, and 3.
Sri Shuddha Goswami said, when the great devotee Uddhava was asked by Vidura, who spoke on the message of dearest Lord Krishna, Uddhava was unable to answer it immediately due to the excessive anxiety at the remembrance of the Lord. He was one who even in his childhood, at the age of 5 years, was so absorbed in the service of Lord Krishna that when he was called by his mother for morning breakfast, he did not wish to have it. Uddhava thus served the Lord continually from childhood, and in his old age, that attitude of service never slackened. As soon as he was asked about the message of the Lord, he at once remembered all about him.
Yeah. So as soon as Vidura, he asked about Krishna's pastimes. Please describe something about Krishna. Immediately Uddhava fainted. His separation from Krishna increased more of his love from Krishna. And that's why without even replying anything to Vidura, he just fainted. But then what happened is, after fainting, he was hearing the loud sound of Vidura's questions. He's asking so many questions. So then he got up, okay, I have to answer the questions regarding to Krishna, in relation to Krishna. And when he was just 5 years old, he would worship the deities and offer different articles of worship to the Lord. And whenever his mother would call for breakfast, he wouldn't come unless until his worship was completed. So that was his love for Krishna, and even when he was very small. And that is why Prabhupada encouraged little children, little kids, to play with Krishna dolls. So if you go to our gift shops, you'll find Krishna Balram, Radha Krishna, or Gaur Nitai. So these dolls are there. Because Prabhupada himself was given a set of deities by his father to worship. So Uddhava also. So from childhood, he was engaged in deity worship. And that is how he developed such an attraction for Krishna. Like, for me also, I wouldn't come for breakfast when I was called. But I was not absorbed in Krishna consciousness, I was absorbed in playing. So we would play so much from morning till evening. We didn't care for it. It was totally out of bonding platform. No worry about eating or drinking or anything. Because Balavastha Krida Sakta. Generally, small kids are very much attached to playing. But Uddhava was very attached to worshipping the deities from his very childhood, which shows that he was a devotee from childhood. And although so many years had passed, he didn't age, in the sense that both from the bodily features and also his service didn't become slacked. So what happens in this world is, as the years pass, the service becomes slackened. Like I still remember my father, when he was in the government job, he would work practically like a private job, only more than private job. Sometimes come at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the night, go for dam constructions in the rear fields and in the very remote areas, and would come very late in the night. But when he saw that, although he was one of the most respectable and you can say beautiful person who never ate any money, but the way the seniors behaved with him, it's like last few years it was like a hard time to do his job. And that is nature of everything in this world. So even we have seen the old women, as the women also age, they say, okay, now will we keep on cooking whole life? So after some time, the service doesn't look very pleasurable. But Krishna consciousness is not like that. As the age progresses, person's service attitude increases even more. So that was visible from Uddhava. So in that sense, he was not influenced by time. So he was youthful, full of energy and vitality to serve the Lord. So that is for the characteristics of Uddhava or glory of Uddhava. So again, Uddhava is glorified the way Sukdev Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj, Sut Goswami, Sonakadi rishis, they all are glorified in the Bhagavatam, because now Vidur Uddhav Samvad is going to come up. So the quality of the speaker and the quality of the audience also determines the quality of the talk. So the qualities of Uddhava are mentioned here. Of course, Vidur Maitreya Samvad will be the next one, but Uddhava's qualities are mentioned. But he is going to speak now. Please read fourth.
For a moment, he remained dead silent, and his body did not move. He became absorbed in the nectar of remembering the Lord's lotus feet in devotional ecstasy, and he appeared to be going increasingly deeper into the ecstasy. On the inquiry by Vidura about Krishna, Uddhava appeared to be awakened from slumber. He appeared to regret that he had forgotten the lotus feet of the Lord. Thus he again remembered the lotus feet of the Lord and remembered all his transcendental loving presence of the Lord. Because the Lord is absolute, there is no difference between his remembrance and his personal presence. Thus, Uddhava remained completely silent for a moment, but then he appeared to be going deeper and deeper into ecstasy. Feeling of ecstasy are displayed by highly advanced devotees of the Lord. There are 8 kinds of transcendental changes in the body: tears, shivering of the body, perspiration, restlessness, sobering, choking of the throat, etc. And all were manifested by Uddhava in the presence of Vidura.
So, this verse is Muhutakad, which means 48 minutes. So, initially, when Vidura asked questions, he fainted. And then he exclaimed, "Oh, I've been separated from Krishna, separate from my master." So he got up, but he remained silent for 48 minutes. Because in that separation from Krishna, he was realizing Krishna's beauty. And in this way, he was meeting directly Krishna in his remembrance of Krishna. So in this way, he was submerged in the sweetness of Prem, Bhakti Yogena. And then when this separation increased more, then he was remembering Krishna even more, and that is why he forgot his previous pain of being separate from Krishna. So in this way, he was very blissful. So many times people don't understand why Krishna left Vrindavan, because the nectar of remembering Krishna increases more in separation than in meeting. And Krishna wanted to give that nectar to the Vedavasis, and that's why he left Vrindavan. Please read a 5th and 6th.
It was so observed by Vidura that Uddhava had all the transcendental bodily changes due to total ecstasy, and he was trying to wipe away tears of separation from his eyes. Thus, Vidura could understand that Uddhava had completely assimilated extensive love for the Lord. Text 6. The great devotee Uddhava soon came back from the abode of the Lord to the human plane, and wiping his eyes, he awakened his reminiscence of the past and spoke to Vidura in a pleasing mood.
Yeah. So verse number 5 describes the Uddhava's symptoms of bliss. Pulukado benne sarvanga, that his body was filled with sprouting of hairs, like sprouts of trees. He became very stunned. His eyes were closed. Tears were flowing down from his eyes. And Vidura understood that Uddhav's life has become successful. He has attained Krishna Prema, because he was showing the symptoms of Krishna Prema. Yeah. So that is how he found all these points. And then from the world of the Lord, where his thoughts were in the Dwarka, eternal abode of the Lord, he returned to external consciousness. And then he became attracted to Vidura's questions because they were in relationship to Krishna. So questions related to Krishna are very attractive for the exalted souls. So in this way, again, his remembrance was broken for the second time. So initially he had Krishna questions of Vidura. He fainted, came to consciousness for 48 minutes. He was absorbed in Krishna. And then again he went in ecstasy in that sense. And then again he was attracted by Vidura's questions. And that is how he bursted in the smile. Why? Because Lord told to Uddhava, "My dear Uddhava, please come out of your trance. You are supposed to answer Vidura's questions. Some service is still there." So that is how Uddhava came back. And now Uddhava is going to tell the unfortunate situation of the Yadus and others. So you don't have to read this particular excerpt. You can just read a translation and the purport, which also. Please read 7th translation and purport.
Sri Uddhava said, my dear Vidura, son of the world, Lord Krishna has said, and our house has now been swallowed by the great snake of time. What can I say to you about our welfare? Purport. Disappearance of Krishna, son, may be explained as follow according to commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Vidura was struck with the great sorrow when he got the hint of annihilation of the great Yadu dynasty as well as of his own family, the Kuru dynasty. Uddhava could understand the grief of Vidura and therefore he first of all wanted to sympathize with him by saying that after the sunset everyone is in darkness. Since the entire world was merged in the darkness of grief, neither Vidura nor Uddhava nor anyone else could be happy. Uddhava was very much aggrieved as Vidura, and there was nothing further to be said about their welfare. The comparison of Krishna to sun is very appropriate. As soon as sun sets, darkness automatically appears. But the darkness experienced by the common man does not affect the sun itself, either at the time of sunrise or of sunset. Lord Krishna's appearance and disappearance are exactly like that of the sun. He appears and disappears in innumerable universes. As long as he is present in a particular universe, there is transcendental light in that universe, but the universe from which he passes away is put into the darkness, and his pastime, however, are everlasting. The Lord is always present in some universe, just as sun is present either in eastern or western hemisphere. The sun is always present either in India or in America, but when sun is present in India, the American land is in darkness, and when sun is present in America, Indian hemisphere is the darkness. As sun appears in the morning, gradually rises to Mediterranean, then again sets in one hemisphere while simultaneously rising in the other. So the Lord Krishna disappearance in one universe and the beginning of different pastime in another take place simultaneously. As soon as one pastime is finished here, it is manifested in another universe, and thus his Nitya Leela or eternal pastime are going without ending. As sunrise take place once in 24 hours, sorry. Similarly, the pastimes of Lord Krishna take place in a universe once in a daytime of Brahma, account of which is given in Srimad Bhagavatam 43 kya? Solar years. But wherever the Lord is present, all his different pastimes are described in the revealed scriptures take place at regular intervals. As at sunset, the snakes become powerful, the thieves are encouraged, ghosts become active, and the lotus become disfigured, and the Chakmati laments. So, with the disappearance of Lord Krishna, atheistic feel enlivened and the devotees become sorry.
So this basically an analogy is given here. So Krishna is compared to sun. So like we find that sun rises in one place, then rises in another place, then third place and fourth place and fifth place, and after 24 years it comes back here again. Similarly, Krishna appears once in one day of Brahma, like sun appears or sunrise happens once in one day of the day. Then we find, let us say sun is on the head at the top. Sun is at the head here, then it will be on another place of the globe, then other place of the globe, then other place of the globe. Similarly, each of Krishna's pastimes keep on happening in each and every part of globe. That is why all of Krishna's bodies are called Avya. Avya means something which doesn't get spent. Vya means getting spent, Avya means not getting spent. So our bodies get spent. So we spend our childhood body and get a youth body. We spend our youth body and get a old body. Even the body which we had at the beginning of our class is no more now. Because we continuously keep on changing bodies. And once the body is spent, is not going to come back again. It is gone. But all of Krishna's bodies are eternal. So Krishna performed his Putra Leela here, then he'll perform Purna Leela somewhere else, then somewhere else, then somewhere else. Krishna killed Trinavarth here, he'll kill Trinavarth at another place, then third place, then fourth place, and fifth place, and again, at the end of another day of Brahma, he'll come back here again. So like sun in each of his phase, it's like it is in different phases. Now it may be at the top of our head. So sun in each of its phase keeps on traveling to different parts of the globe. Like 1 o'clock happens here, then 1 o'clock somewhere else, then 1 o'clock somewhere else. After 2 o'clock happens here, then 2 o'clock at some other place, then some other place, then at some other place. Similarly, each of Krishna's pastimes keep on happening continuously in some other universe. And that's why Krishna's pastimes are called Nitya Leela. They're eternal, they never stop. Only the places change. But after sunset, darkness, snakes, ghosts, they all disappear. Similarly, when Krishna disappears from this world, darkness of Kali pervades. Evil people become very enlivened, atheists become very enlivened. And like lotus become disfigured and Chakravaki laments when the sunset happens. Similarly, when Krishna disappears from this world, devotees feel very sorry. They lament. So that's conveyed by this particular analogy. So I hope that's clear to our devotees. Then we'll go to the next verse and purport. Is it 8th translation and purport?
Verse number 8, translation. This universe with all its planets is most unfortunate, and even more unfortunate are the members of the Yadu dynasty, because they could not identify Lord Hari as the personality of Godhead, any more than the fish could identify the moon. Purport. Uddhav lamented the unfortunate persons of the world who could not recognize Lord Shri Krishna in spite of seeing all these transcendental godly qualities. From the very beginning of his appearance within the prison bars of King Kansa up to the Nosla Leela, although he exhibited his potencies as the personality of Godhead in his 6 opulences of wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, the foolish persons of the world could not understand that he was the Supreme Lord. Foolish persons might have thought him an extraordinary historic figure because they had no intimate touch with the Lord. But more unfortunate were the family members of the Lord, the members of the Yadu dynasty, who are always in company with the Lord, but are unable to recognize him as the Supreme Personality of God. Uddhav lamented his own fortune also, because although he knew Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of God, he could not properly use the opportunity to render devotional service to the Lord. He regretted everyone's misfortune, including his own. Pure devotee of the Lord thinks himself most unfortunate. That is due to excessive love for the Lord and is one of the transcendental perceptions of Graha, the suffering of separation. It is learned from the revealed scriptures that the moon was born from the milk ocean. There is a milk ocean in the upper planets, and there Lord Vishnu, who controls the heart of every living being as Paramatma, the Super Soul, resides at Shira Dakshai Vishnu. Those who do not believe in the existence of the ocean of milk, because they have experienced only the salty water in the ocean, should know that the world is also called the goat, which means the cow. The urine of a cow is salty, and according to Ayurvedic medicine, the cow's urine is very effective in treating patients suffering from liver failure. Such patients may not have any experience with cow's milk because milk is never given to liver patients. But the liver patient may know that the cow's milk has milk also, although he has never tasted. Similarly, men who have experienced only of this tiny planet where the saltwater ocean exists may take information from the relevant scriptures that there is also an ocean of milk, although we have not seen it. From this ocean of milk, the moon was born, but the fish in the milk ocean could not recognize that the moon was another fish and was different from them. The fish took the moon to be one of them and maybe something illuminating, but nothing more. The unfortunate persons do not recognize Lord Krishna like such fish. They take to him to be one of them, although a little extraordinary in opulence, strength, etc. The Bhagavad Gita 9.11 confirms such foolish persons to be most unfortunate. Avajanante Mamura Monisham and Ashwin.
Thank you. Yes, Manohar, this group had a question, and then we'll comment on this verse.
Yes, Guruji, in the last verse, Prabhupada writes in his purport that Krishna appears once in the day of Brahma. So my question was little, silly that we, normally we, normally it is written that there are 1,000 yuga cycles in one Brahma's day. So by this line, by this statement, we can understand that in the complete day, in the 1,000 yuga cycles, Krishna appears once in the Brahma's day.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so that means it is not like in all yuga cycles, Krishna going to appear in the same time. Okay.
You are right.
That's
so
yeah.
We are very fortunate. So that's what people would sometimes say. Only 5,000 years ago, Krishna appeared.
Yeah.
Now you think, my God, 5,000 years was so long. So what Prabhupada is seeing from the perspective of one day of Brahma, that only 5,000 years back Krishna appeared. And only 500 years back Lord Chaitanya appears. Because Lord Chaitanya also appears once in day of Brahma. So we are very fortunate in that sense. So
thank you so much.
Hari Hari. So coming back to this particular verse, is also like very important verse. So Lord said that the inhabitants of Dwarka who appear in my heart are unfortunate, although they were very close relationship to me. Why? Because they live with Lord. They don't know the Lord being bewildered by his sweetness. So that's a fortunate actually, in one sense. So sweetness of the Lord is considered more than the greatness of the Lord. It's considered more superior. So in that sense, they were fortunate, but here, just to take a lesson, Prabhupada is saying that they were unfortunate. So like we find in the ocean of milk, if there are fishes, then they may see the moon thinking it is another fish. So similarly, when Krishna appeared, there were many people who didn't recognize that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead because he looked exactly like them. Which I have two hands, Krishna also has two hands. I have two eyes, Krishna also has two eyes. I also have hairs, Krishna also has hairs. They didn't realize that his body is spiritual, our body is material. So sometimes understanding Krishna is more difficult than understanding Lord Vishnu also, Lord Narayana also. But Lord Narayana at least has two extra hands. To be understand, kuch to alag hai, no, someone different. But Krishna has shown two hands, so very difficult to understand. So like Lord, moon is not there in the river or ocean. Moon is there in the sky. But its reflection is seen in the river. So similarly, although Krishna is transcendent to the three modes of material nature, but he seems to be the part of this material nature. Although he is transcendental. And actually, Uddhava is calling himself to be unfortunate. Because he was thinking, although Krishna is the Supreme Lord, he was there with me, but now I'm so unfortunate that he is not there with me now. So that is the reason. Vidura is considering, sorry, Uddhava is considering himself to be unfortunate. Yes, sir. Anilina Matai?
It's also said that one can experience Lord because of his mercy. So is it like that those devotees who couldn't experience the sweetness of the Lord, is it like the Lord didn't show his mercy, or how do we understand that?
Okay. So it's like things are in perfection, more perfection and most perfection. Like we have relationship with our mother, who's mother, father's brother, father's sister, who's also mother, mother's sister, she's also considered mother, Masi, like mother. So all these ladies are in the same category of mother, but the relationship with mother is more thicker than all the other relationships. So similarly, spiritual world also, all of things are perfect, they're in different gradations. So that's perfect, more perfect, most perfect. So those who know greatness of the Lord are much better than the people who think Lord to be impersonal Brahman. People who are impersonalists are better than the people in three modes of material nature. So there are gradations. When a person is in this world, then mode of passion is considered better than mode of ignorance. That's why people who are very irresponsible, they are chastised very heavily. And people say, iska shaadi kara do, get him married. Because then at least he'll come in mode of passion, he'll start working. Now those who are already in this world, who are very laborers, they work very hard. So then the genuine renunciates are considered better than them. Because they're in mode of goodness. So those who are Gyanis, those who are Brahmavadi, are considered better. And the perfection of goodness is when realizes I'm not body, I'm soul. One goes to Brahma. So there's gradation. Now better than them are the people in Vaikuntha who understand the greatness of the Lord in truth. The Lord is so great. So then they are considered Santras. But when after that, when a person becomes very intimate, he wants to serve the Lord, not just understand the greatness of the Lord. So then some sweetness comes in picture, that I want to have intimacy with the Lord. So some sweetness comes. But then sweetness increases for people who are residents of Dwaraka and Mathura. So they sometimes remember the greatness of the Lord, sometimes they remember the sweetness of the Lord. So like Vasudeva Devaki, when Lord appeared with 4 arms at Sandachakra Gada Padma, they were praying, my dear Lord, you are so great, and 10 directions, the time factor, everything is in your control. But then slowly their sweetness of the Lord overpowers the greatness of the Lord. So then what they say at the end, my dear Lord, you have 4 hands. Please hide the 4 hands, keep 2 only. Otherwise, Kansa will understand that you are Vishnu. And he will kill you the way he has killed other of our sons. And my dear Lord, you are like having so much affluence. People from far away will understand that you are Krishna, you are Lord Vishnu. So you cover your effulgence so that we can hide you somewhere. So that is how sometimes Dwarakavasi and Mathuravasi experience sweetness of Krishna, sometimes greatness of the Lord. But Vrindavan, they always are covered with the sweetness of the Lord. So much so, even Krishna keeps on displaying his greatness, they don't care. They don't care. Okay, he may be Supreme Lord, who cares? He is Supreme Lord. Ultimately, he's our friend. Ultimately, he's our lover. So that sweetness is considered even higher. So Vrindavan is considered the highest abode because there is so much sweetness of Krishna that nobody cares for Krishna's greatness. Bhagavan hai to kya hua? Even if he's God, who cares? So that is Vrindavan. So there is gradation of perfection. So I hope I was clear. Okay. Yeah. Now we'll go to the ninth. So you can repeat this verse after me. Ingitagya puru prauda eka rama satvatah satvatam risabham sarve bhuta vasam amam sata. Please read translation and the purport. Oh.
The Yadus were all experienced devotees, learned and expert in psychic study. Over and above this, they were always with the Lord in all kinds of relaxations, and still they were only able to know him as the one supreme who dwells everywhere. Purport. In the Vedas, it is said that the Supreme Lord or the Paramatma cannot be understood simply by the strength of one's erudition or power of mental speculation. Nayam Atma Pravachanena Labhyuna Medhayana Bahuna Shrutena. Kathopanishad 1.2.23. He can be known only by one who has the mercy of the Lord. The Yadavas were all exceptionally learned and experienced, but in spite of their knowing the Lord as the one who lives in everyone's heart, they could not understand that he is the original personality of Godhead. This lack of knowledge was not due to their insufficient erudition. It was due to their misfortune. In Vrindavan, however, the Lord was not even known as the Paramatma because the residents of Vrindavan were pure, unconventional devotees of the Lord and could think of him only as their object of love. They did not know that he is the personality of Godhead. Yet the Yadus or the residents of Dwarka, however, could know Lord Krishna as Vasudev or the super soul living everywhere, but not as the supreme Lord. As the scholars of the Vedas, they verified the Vedic hymns, Eko Deva Sarva Bhuta Divasaha, Antaryami and Vrishni Nam Paradevata. The Yadus, therefore, accepted Lord Krishna as a super soul incarnated in their family and not more than that.
So this Prabhupada exactly writes the misfortune of the some residents of Dwarka, not everyone. So some residents of Dwarka knew Krishna as super soul, Paramatma in everyone's heart, but not as supreme personality of God. So this true for some residents of Dwarka, because as I told that there were gradations of devotees, and within each of the devotee also there were two personalities. So one personality was demigod counterpart, and the other quality was otherwise the eternal associates. So eternal associates automatically were absorbed in sweetness of the Lord, but those who were like Paramatma counterparts, sorry, not Paramatma counterparts, the demigod counterparts, many of them couldn't understand Krishna as Swayam Bhagavan. So they couldn't understand that this Krishna is even source of Narayan. He is not just Paramatma dwelling in everyone's heart. So that is the meaning of they didn't know the Lord properly. So in this way, Some of them knew, some of them didn't know. So they half knew the Bhagavan. So they knew that Krishna is the Supreme Lord also, but not as the source of Narayana also. But he is different one. He is source of all Narayana. Adyo Narayana Puman, that they didn't know. Okay. So these are the very famous verse. You can repeat after me. It's worth memorizing. Devasya Maya Sprishta ये चान्य दशरात आश्रिताः
देवस्य मायया स्पृष्टा ये च अन्य दश आश्रिताः
भ्रामतेन तद्वाक्ये आत्मनो हरो.
Under no circumstances
Who somebody was reading?
Under no circumstances can the words of person bewildered by the illusory energy of the Lord deviate the intelligence of those who are completely surrendered souls. Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to all the evidences of the Vedas. He is accepted by all acharyas, including Sripad Shankaracharya. But when he was present in the world, different classes of men accepted him differently, and therefore their calculations of the Lord were also different. Generally, persons who had faith in the revealed scriptures accepted the Lord as he is, and all of them merged into great bereavement when the Lord disappeared from the world. In the first canto, we have already discussed the lamentation of Arjuna and Yudhishthira, to whom the disappearance of Lord Krishna was almost intolerable up to the end of their lives. The Yadavas were only partially cognizant of the Lord, but they are also glorious because they had the opportunity to associate with the Lord, who acted as the head of their family. And they also rendered the Lord intimate service. The Yadavas and other devotees of the Lord are different from those who wrongly calculated him to be ordinary human personality. Such persons are certainly bewildered by the illusionary energy. They are hellish and are envious of the Supreme Lord. The illusionary energy acts very powerfully on them because, in spite of their elevated mundane education, such persons are faithless and are infected by the mentality of atheism. They are always very eager to establish that Lord Sri Krishna was an ordinary man who was killed by a hunter due to his many impious acts in plotting to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and Jarasandha, the dominant kings of the earth. Such persons have no faith in the statement of the Bhagavad Gita, and the Lord is unaffected by the reactions of the work Namam Karmani Liptanti. According to the atheistic view of the point of view, Lord Krishna's family, the Yadu dynasty, was vanquished due to being cursed by the Brahmanas. The sins committed by Krishna in killing the sons of Dhritarashtra, etc. All these blasphemies do not touch the heart of the devotees of the Lord because they know perfectly well what is what. Their intelligence regarding the Lord is never disturbed, but those who are disturbed by the statements of the Asuras are also condemned. That is what Uddhava meant in this verse. Thank you.
Thank you. So Devasya Maya Sprishta Ye Cha Annad Asad Asita. So Asad Asita, those who take the shelter of the illusory energy, so such people are bewildered. But Brahmate Divitna Tadvakir Atmanat Patanaharo. But devotees who are completely surrendered to the Lord, their intelligence are not bewildered. So who is bewildered? Only those who are attacked by the illusory energy of the Lord. So devotees living in this material world, they suffer in separation from the Lord. And the Yadavas were eternal associate of the Lord. So they were always happy in the association of the Lord. So there are two types of persons who are fortunate. Those who are in separation with the Lord like Brajavasis, as well as those who are in association of devotees like Dwarkavasis. But apart from that, those who are not devotees, they have a hellish existence. Because they are touched by Lord's Maya. They have taken shelter of evil mentality. So they say that no, Krishna did so much of violence. He got Dhritarashtra's son, Jarasandha, so many people got killed because of Krishna. But devotee's mind are not bewildered by such critical words. Why? Because he is just absorbed in Krishna's sweetness. So those who are absorbed in Krishna's sweetness, they don't care for the arguments of the world. So they may or may not be able to convince others. Like we have three categories of devotees, which we learned in Nectar of Instruction. Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, Uttam Adhikari. So one of the definitions of Kanishta, Madhyam, Uttam was Kanishta are the one those whose faith can be shaken. Anybody can come and shake their faith and convince them to leave Krishna consciousness. Now, Madhyamadhikari devotees are those whose faith cannot be shaken, but they may not be able to convince others based on scriptures. So they are also very exalted. And certainly Uttamadhikari are the one those who can convince everyone on the based on scriptures. So this is one of the definitions of Kanishta, Madhyam, Uttam. So those who realize weakness, they are not bewildered. That is what this verse is. Yeah. Yes, please read 11th verse and translation.
Lord Shri Krishna, who manifested his eternal form before the vision of all on the earth, performed his disappearance by removing his form from the sight of those who were unable to see him as he is due to not executing required penance. Purport. In this verse, the word avitrapat darsham is most significant. The conditioned souls in the material world are all trying to satisfy their senses in various ways, but they have failed to do so because it is impossible to be satisfied by such efforts. The example of the fish on the land is very appropriate. If one takes a fish from the water and puts it on the land, it cannot be happy by any amount of offered pleasure. The spirit soul can be happy only in association of the supreme living being, the personality of Godhead, and nowhere else. The Lord, by his unlimited costless mercy, has innumerable Vaikuntha planets in the Brahm Jyoti sphere of the spiritual world. And in that transcendental world, there is an unlimited arrangement for the unlimited pleasure of the living entities. The Lord himself comes to display his transcendental pastimes, typically represented at Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka. He appears just to attract the conditioned souls back to Godhead, back home to the eternal world. But for want of sufficient piety, the onlookers are not attracted by such pastimes of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that only those who have completely surpassed the way of sinful reaction can engage themselves in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The entire Vedic way of ritualistic performances is to put every conditioned souls on the path of piety. By strict adherence to the prescribed principles of all orders of social life, one can attain the qualities of truthfulness, control of mind, control of the senses, forbearance, etc., and can be elevated to the plane of rendering pure devotional service to the Lord. Only by such a transcendental vision are one's material hankerings fully satisfied. When the Lord was present, persons who were able to satisfy their material hankerings by seeing him in true perspective were thus able to go back with him to his kingdom. But those persons who were unable to see the Lord as he is remained attached to the material hankering and were not able to go back home, back to Godhead. When the Lord passed beyond the vision of all, he did so in his original eternal form, as stated in this verse. The Lord left in his own body. He did not leave his body, as is generally misunderstood by the conditioned souls. This statement defeats the false propaganda of the faithless non-devotees that the Lord passed away like an ordinary conditioned soul. The Lord appeared in order to release the world from undue burden of the non-believing asuras, and after doing this, he disappeared from the world's eyes.
Really, thank you. So in this way, in text number 11, the question was raised that the view of devotee, is it correct? And what is that view? So this view is answered in this 11th verse. The Lord shows his form to men or those people who taste his sweetness. And Lord's sweetness is such, more one drinks it, more one remains unsatisfied. And in this way, one hankers for the sweetness of the Lord more and more and more and more and more. So what Lord thought that those who were greedy for him even without his disappearance from this world, they taste their sweetness more in separation. But then, if Lord goes away from the eyes of devotees, somebody may think, hey, Lord comes and takes away sweetness after some time. So in this way, what Lord does? Lokalochanam. To eyes of the people, he showed this form so that he can attract the eyes of all the people. And when people see his attractive features, then like a thief, he takes their hearts away. So in this way, Lord, when he appeared in this world, he made everyone blind by stealing their eyes. In the sense their eyes are always on Krishna. So then somebody will say, okay, fine. If everybody was releasing so much, why did Krishna disappear? And he didn't allow everyone to release him for a long, long time. So he's Karuna Sindhu, is ocean of mercy. Then why did it disappear? Because disappearance creates misfortune for people. So then this particular verse says, Atapta tapasam. They hadn't performed enough austerity to attain such a mercy of the Lord, and Lord always stays with them. So when somebody attains Lord's mercy, he is never satisfied by seeing the Lord. And when a devotee has such an attraction for the Lord, he will always think of Krishna. And that is considered the perfection of life. So in this way, for ordinary people, what he did is, he came, showed his sweetness and disappeared so that they will hunger for his sweetness more and more. And then he will make them his own eternal residents. So that is how Lord deals with the devotees. Now the question comes that after Lord disappeared, did he go to Vaikuntha? So that is answered in text 12, which is also a very famous verse. So Lord's Uddhava will remember now beauty of the Lord. So a very famous verse, you can repeat after me. Yan martya lilopekam swayogam maya balam darseta grihitam
Ya balam darshaya tapagritam
vismapanam swasya cha swabhagarde param padam bhushana bhushanangam.
Param padam bhushanam bhushanangam.
Please read translation and the purpose.
In conformity with the Vedic hymns, Nityo Nityanam Chetas Chetananam.
Translation also.
Oh, sorry. The Lord appeared in the mortal world by his eternal potency Yoga Maya. He came in his eternal form, which is just suitable for his pastimes. These pastimes were wonderful for everyone, even for those proud of their own opulence, including the Lord himself in his form as the Lord of Vaikuntha. Thus, his Shri Krishna's transcendental body is the ornament of all ornaments. In conformity with the Vedic hymns, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam, the personality of Godhead is more excellent than all other living beings within all the universes in the material world. He is the chief of all living entities. No one can surpass him or be equal to him in wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, or renunciation. When Lord Krishna was within this universe, he seemed to be a human being because he appeared in a manner just suitable for his pastimes in the mortal world. He did not appear in human society in his Vaikuntha feature with 4 hands, because he would not have been suitable for his pastimes. But in spite of his appearing as a human being, no one was or is able to him in any respect in any of the 6 different opulences. Everyone is more or less proud of his opulence in this world, but when Lord Krishna was in a human society, he excelled all his contemporaries within the universe. When the Lord's pastimes are visible to the human eye, they are called prakat, and when they are not visible, they are called aprakat. In fact, Lord's pastimes never stop, just as the sun never leaves the sky. The sun is always in its right orbit in the sky, but it is sometimes visible or sometimes invisible to our limited vision. Similarly, the pastimes of the Lord are very current in one universe or other. And when Lord Krishna disappeared from the transcendental abode of Dwarka, it was simply a disappearance from the eyes of the people there. It should not be misunderstood that his transcendental body, which is just suitable for the pastime in the mortal world, is in any way inferior to his different expansions in the Vaikuntha lokas. His body manifested in the material world is transcendental par excellence in the sense that his pastimes in the mortal world excel his mercy displayed in Vaikuntha lokas. In the Vaikuntha lokas, the Lord is merciful toward the liberated or Nitya Mukta living entities, but in his pastime in the mortal world, he is merciful even to the fallen souls who are Nitya Baddha or conditioned forever. The 6 excellent opulences which he displayed in the mortal world by the agency of his internal potency Yoga Maya are rare even the Vaikuntha lokas. All his pastimes were manifested not by the material energy, by his spiritual energy. The excellence of his Rasa Leela at Vrindavan and his householder life with 16,000 wives is wonderful even for Narayan in Vaikuntha, and is certainly so for other living entities within this mortal world. His pastimes are wonderful even for other incarnations of the Lord, such as Sri Ram, Nasimha, Varaha, and Varaha. His opulence was so super excellent that his pastimes were adorned even by the Lord of Vaikuntha, who is not different from the Lord Krishna himself.
Yeah. So then this verse gives a very beautiful verse and as well as purport. So then the question comes that if Lord went to Vaikuntha, how can he appear in a form which is suitable for human pastimes? So one should not think that Lord has some fault because he came as appeared like human being. On the contrary, the Lord's form as like one of the humans is more attractive than the pastimes in Vaikuntha also. It's like when a jewel is placed in the background of a black velvet paper, jewel looks all the more beautiful. Similarly, when Lord comes in this world and he performs any pastimes, it becomes even more beautiful. Like for example, Krishna jumping from the mouth of Bakasura and coming down. Now for demigods, for such a jump may be looking okay, we can also jump like that. But for human beings, like a superhuman activity. So that's why Lord's pastimes are more appreciated by the human beings than the demigods also. So the opportunity to realize the Lord is more there in the human form. And Krishna's pastimes are so realizable and so much filled with yogamaya potency, spiritual energy, that those pastimes are not displayed even in the Vaikuntha planet also. Rather, these pastimes are so sweet that even other incarnations enter in the body of Krishna to become a witness to experience those pastimes or experience the sweetness. So this is very vividly explained in Uddhav Sandesh, a book written by Rup Goswami. How different incarnations enter in the body of Krishna to realize those pastimes. So even Dwarka Krishna enters in the body of Vrindavan Krishna to realize those pastimes. So that is how among all avatars, Krishna's pastimes are the sweetest. And one of the proofs is the reason why Mahavishnu stole the sons of the Brahmana to get darshan of Arjuna and Krishna. That means he was also attracted by Krishna. Yeah. Now please read the translation of 13 and 14.
All the demigods from the upper, lower and middle universal planetary systems assembled at the altar of the Rajasuya sacrifice performed by Maharaj Yudhishthira. After seeing the beautiful bodily features of Lord Krishna, they all contemplated that he was the ultimate dexterous creation of Brahma, the creator of human beings. Text 14. The damsels of Vraja, after pastimes of laughter, humor and exchanges of glances, were anguished when Krishna left them. They used to follow him with their eyes, and thus they sat down with stunned intelligence and could not finish their household duties.
So now the scenes of Krishna's beauty already it was described Bhushan Rangam. I just forgot to comment on that. Krishna is considered the ornament of the ornaments. What does that mean? That when the ornaments are kept on the limbs of Krishna, ornaments, their beauty increases. Their beauty increases. Like we find in this world also, certain dresses when they are worn by some movie stars and other stars, people want to purchase those dresses. But of course, without the dresses, they will also not look beautiful. So both are glorified. But in case of Krishna, when ornaments are put on Krishna, ornaments become glorified. That's why it's called the ornament of the ornaments. So none of the beauties of this world can enhance Krishna's beauty. Rather, the beauty of this world becomes enhanced by being in contact with Krishna. So when Lord Nityananda appeared in Ekchakra, Mother Padmavati was wondering how to take care of the child. Because she would bring the softest of the clothes, and even the softest of the clothes would look harder than the body of Lord Nityananda. She would bring best of the scented oils, but Lord Nityananda's body was more fragrant than any of the scented oils. She would bring best of the beautiful dresses, but Lord Nityananda's beauty was more beautiful than any of the dresses. She would bring best of the ornaments, but ornaments would increase in beauty by being on the body of Lord Nityananda. So that is how Krishna's beauty, Lord Chaitanya's, Lord Nityananda's beauty, it is more than the beauty of the entire world, entire creation. And now Uddhava reminds Vidura in this verse number 13. He said, what to say of me, even he had witnessed. He had witnessed the great auspiciousness of Krishna and his beauty. When all the demigods were sitting in the Rasuya sacrifice, when they saw Krishna's beauty, they understood it cannot be Brahma's creation. Brahmaji is not skilled enough to create such beautiful limbs like Krishna's limbs. So Brahmaji would have created blue lotuses, kajal, blue sapphire, rain cloud, and these are the things with which we compare Krishna's beauty. But Krishna's beauty excels all such beautiful things. In front of Krishna's face, people say there is no use of moon, there is no use of lotus. And that is why when Lord Chaitanya appeared, Rahu angered moon saying that Akalanka Gaura Chandra. Lord Chaitanya is that moon which doesn't have any kalank, which doesn't have any black spots. Sakalanka Chandra Kaun Prayojan. So then what is the use of having a moon with black spots? And that is the reason Rahu angered the moon. So Krishna's beauty is more beautiful than any moon or lotus of this world. And that is the reason when Lord appears, he doesn't have to prove that he is God. So there are so many people in this world, sometimes they fight court cases saying that we are God. But the point is when Lord appears, he doesn't have to prove he is God. Just by seeing him, people understand he is God, that because such a beauty doesn't exist in this world. So that is how Krishna's beauty is beyond all the beauties of this world. And God is the proof. And who are the people who relish the beauty the most? That is gopis, gopis of Vrindavan. So gopis' attraction for Krishna is more than the attraction of Brahma, Indra, Vayu, Varun, and all great souls for Krishna. And that is why Krishna didn't respect Brahma and Indra. Rather, he made fun of them by including them in his pastimes. He really discussed Indra, he bewildered Brahma, because he wanted to prove that he has more respect for gopis of Vrindavan than any one of them. So the attraction of gopis is mentioned here, that their minds were followed by their eyes just behind Krishna, wherever Krishna would go. So they would look at Krishna when Krishna was departing from this for the forest, and then their eyes would become paralyzed. They would just become stunned like the deity or the statue and just look at the direction from where Krishna had gone away. So in this way, they stop the activities like cleaning, smearing cow dung, churning yogurt, etc. Whenever Krishna, they would think of Krishna, or they would hear the sound of flute of Krishna. If they suddenly saw him, they would become motionless. So this love was really astonishing to the world. That nobody in this world has so much love that people become stunned. People stop their activities. So that proves that how Krishna's beauty was the most superior one. And especially the pastime where Krishna disappears from the dancing arena and all the gopis are following Krishna. And then suddenly Lord Narayan, or actually Krishna and Narayan are not different. So Krishna appears with the four arms. And when gopis see Lord Narayan, they pay obeisance to him. And then they say, my dear Lord, please tell us where is Krishna. This proves that beauty of Krishna is more than the beauty of Narayan also. Krishna is more sweeter than Narayan. So that is how gopis prove Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead by releasing his beauty to the topmost extent. And Uddhava himself was a witness to it. when he visited Vrindavan. Okay. Now Uddhava starts speaking about Krishna's mercy and his bewildering activities. So please read 15, 16 and 17.
The personality of Godhead, the all-compassionate controller of both the spiritual and material creation, is unborn. But when there is friction between his peaceful devotees and the person who are in material modes of nature, he takes birth just like fire, accompanied by the Mahatattva. When I think of Lord Krishna, how he was born in the prison house of Vasudev, although he is unborn, how he went away from his father's protection to Vraj and lived there incognito of the fear of the enemy, and how, although unlimited powerful, he fled from Mathura in fear, and all these bewildering incidents give me distress. Lord Krishna begged pardon from his parents for their Krishna and Balram's inabilities to serve their feet due to being away from the home because of great fear of Kamsa. He said, "Oh, my mother, oh, father, please excuse us for this inability. All this behavior of Lord give me pain at heart."
So now he starts explaining the bewildering pastimes of Krishna. How Krishna is so bewildering. So what he says, that Lord is the all-compassionate controller of both spiritual world and material world. But then, whenever there are fights between the devotees, especially is referring to Mausa Leela, he doesn't do anything. He would have controlled the fight between the Yadus in the Yadu dynasty, but he didn't do anything. Rather, he only arranged for the destruction. So this is very bewildering. Now, of course, Krishna was thinking that if I disappear before Yadus disappear, Yadu will become wild and will destroy the entire creation. And nobody can force Yadus to leave the bodies because even Yamaraj is fearful of the Yadus. So who can destroy Yadus? Yadus can destroy each other only. And that is the reason Krishna arranged for this Masal Leela. That is very bewildering. And then what he says? Krishna is unborn, still he is born in the prison house of Vasudeva. At least he wanted to appear, he should have appeared now in some good place. And that's why the particular people of certain religion are so bewildered, they criticize Krishna for being born in the jail. So Krishna is really bewildering. So entire religion blasphemes Krishna for that. So that Krishna is bewildering. Krishna is very powerful, but he runs away from Mathura and establishes Dwaraka in between the ocean as if he is fearful of the enemies like Jarasandha and Kalyavan. Of course, Kalyavan he got it killed, but Jarasandha. And then Uddhava says, this gives me distress. This gives me distress. So why does he behave as if now he is very fearful of the enemies? And then further he talks about bewildering. He says, Krishna and Balram, they are so powerful. Rather, the power of the entire creation comes from them. But then what do they say to Vasudeva and Devaki after killing Kansa? My dear parents, please forgive us because we were very fearful of Kansa. Being very fearful of Kansa, we had to stay in Vrindavan in the forest, and that is why we couldn't protect you at that time. So they were speaking as if they were small babies, very fearful of Kansa. And then Uddhav says this also gives me a lot of bewilderment and trouble. That being Supreme Lord, he behaves as if he's an ordinary person. Okay. Now, please read 18th and 19th.
Who, after smelling the dust of his lotus feet, even once, could ever forget it? Simply by expanding the leaves of his eyebrows, Krishna has given the death blow to those who are burdening the earth. Text 19. You have personally seen how the king of Chedi, Shishupal, achieved success in yoga practice, although he hated Lord Krishna. Even the actual yogis aspire after such success with great interest by performance of their various practices. Who can tolerate separation from you?
So after explaining about his bewilderment because of Krishna's sweetness, now he talks about the benefit of realizing Krishna's sweetness. What is that? कृष्ण पाद पद्म रज जे जन पाए ब्रह्मा आदि लोक तारे नहीं भाए. So one who has tasted the smell of dust of Krishna's lotus feet even once, he can't realize even Brahmalok, Indralok, or any lok, any pleasure of this world. Because Krishna's sweetness is so realizable. And so who can leave Krishna? Who can forget Krishna? And simply by moving his eyebrows, which are like leaves, he can give death blows to to everyone who are burning the earth. So by driving the chariot between both the armies, which Arjuna had requested, Krishna, just by glancing at the Kaurava army, took away the entire lifespan of the Kauravas. He stole away their lives. And that is how everybody was destined to die. Who were there. So that's why Krishna gave death blow to all the people. And then he says, who can personally see that even Sisupal, who was always envious of Krishna and he would blaspheme Krishna from his birth, he was braying like a donkey. He had 3 eyes and 4 arms, and he was blaspheming Krishna, Sisupal. And such a Sisupal also got Sayuja Mukti. He entered in the body of Krishna after he was killed in the Rashtriya sacrifice. So he got the same destination which great yogis get. So if somebody has audience of such a loving personality, such a compassionate personality, who can tolerate separation from such a personality? So that is how Uddhava glorifies Krishna. And this is the verse which I was quoting. So these are the famous verses, you can repeat after me. Tathaiva chane naraloka veera ya ahave Krishna mukharavindam Mitra Subanto Nayana Viramam Pathastutaha Padama Purasya. Now, please read that Siddhanta purport.
Certainly others who were fighters on the battlefield of Kurukshetra were purified by the onslaught of Arjuna's arrows, and while seeing the lotus-like face of Krishna, so pleasing to the eyes, they achieved the abode of the Lord. The Supreme Personality of Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, appears in this world for 2 missionary purposes. But because the Lord is absolute, his 2 different kinds of actions, although apparently different, are ultimately for the protection of the faithful. All the warriors who fought against Arjuna, but who were able to see the lotus-like face of the Lord on the battlefront, achieved the abode of the Lord. exactly as the devotees of the Lord do. The words pleasing to the eyes of the seer are very significant. When the warriors from the other side of the battlefield saw Lord Krishna at the front, they appreciated his beauty and their dormant instinct of love of God was awakened. Shishupal saw the Lord also, but he saw him as his enemy, and his love was not awakened. Therefore, Shishupal achieved oneness with the Lord by merging in the impersonal glare of his body, called the Brahmajyoti. Others who were in the marginal position, being neither friends nor enemies, but like his face, were at once promoted to the spiritual planets, the Vankutas. The Lord's personal abode is called Goloka Vrindavan, and the abodes where his plenary expansions reside are called the Vankutas, where the Lord is dormant in every living entity. And the entire process of devotional service unto the Lord is meant for awakening this dormant eternal love of Godhead. But there are degrees of such transcendental awakening. Those who love of God is awakened to the fullest extent go back to the Golok Vrindavan planet in the
Could you get it? Spiritual sky?
God is awakened to the fullest extent, go back to the Golok Vrindavan planet in the spiritual sky. Whereas persons who have just awakened to love of Godhead by accident or association are transferred to the Vankutas planets. Essentially, there is no material difference between Goloka and Vankuta, but in the Vankutas, the Lord is served in unlimited opulence, whereas in Goloka, the Lord is served in natural affection. This love of God is awakened by the association of pure devotees of the Lord. Here the word Parthastra is significant. Those who saw the beautiful face of the Lord on the battlefield of Kurukshetra were purified first by Arjuna when he made his onslaught with arrows. The Lord appeared for the mission of diminishing the burden of the world, and Arjuna was assisting the Lord by fighting on his behalf. Arjuna personally declined to fight, and the whole instruction of the Bhagavad Gita was given to Arjuna to engage him in the fight. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Arjuna agreed to fight in preference to his own decision, and thus Arjuna fought to assist the Lord in his mission of diminishing the burden of the world. All the activities of a pure devotee are executed on behalf of the Lord, because a pure devotee of the Lord has nothing to do for his personal interest. Arjuna's killing was as good as killing by the Lord himself. As soon as Arjuna shot an arrow at an enemy, that enemy became purified of all material contaminations and became eligible to be transferred to the spiritual sky. Those warriors who appreciated the lotus feet of the Lord and saw his face at the front had their dormant love of God awakened, and thus they were transferred at once to Vankut Loka, not to the impersonal state of Brahmajyoti, as was Shishupal. Shishupal died without appreciating the Lord, while others died with appreciation of the Lord. Both were transferred to the spiritual sky, but those who awakened to love of God were transferred to the planets of this transcendental sky. Uddhava seemingly lamented that his own position was less than that of warriors on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, because they had attained to Vankuta, whereas he remained to lament the disappearance of the Lord.
Really. So the process, how all these people went Dharma to Godhead is very vividly explained by Prabhupada. They got purified by the arrows of Arjuna. Then those who were having envy for Krishna got Sayuj Mukti. They entered in the Brahma Jyoti like Shishupal. Those who were in neutral position, they got Vaikuntha. And those who had awakened love for Krishna went back to Golok Vrindavan. So that the benefit each one of them got by participating in the battle of Kurukshetra. And that is why Uddhava laments, he said, "Arey, we all went to Krishna, I am still here only." So Uddhava certainly is a greater devotee than all of them, but being humble is thinking like that. Yes, please read at 21 and 22.
Lord Shri Krishna is a lord of all kinds of threes and is independently supreme by achievement of all kinds of fortune. He is worshipped by the eternal maintainers of the creation, who offers him the paraphernalia of worship by touching their millions of helmets of his feet. Therefore, O Vidur, does it not pain us, his servitors, when we remember that he, Lord Krishna, used to stand before King Ugrasen, who was sitting on the royal throne, and used to submit explanation before him, saying, "O my Lord, please let it be known to you."
Yeah. So now again he's talking about bewilderment. He's saying that Krishna is the Lord of threes. He is Lord of three modes of material nature. He is Lord of Samvit, Sandhini, and Ladini Shaktis. He is the Lord of the three worlds. So he is the Supreme Lord under whom everything is there. But big personality like Brahmas, they bow down to Krishna. But when he identified himself as the son of Vasudeva, who was a minister, so like Vasudeva, he would go in front of Ugrasen and say, "Oh my Lord, please let it be known to you." He would give reports to Ugrasen. And it would happen in front of Uddhav. Uddhav said, "It pains us like anything." Lord to whom even Brahmas are reporting is reporting to Ugrasen. And ultimately it is Krishna only who kept Ugrasen on the throne. Ugrasen had no power in front of these big beings. So that bewilders us. That is what Uddhav says. And the famous verse which attracted even Sukadeva Goswami. So repeat after me. Sukadeva Goswami, so he came to read this here Bhagavatam from Vyasdev. Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam.
Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam.
Jighamsaya payad prasadvi.
Jighamsaya
Prasadvi.
Lebe gatim dhatre uchitam tato anyam.
Lebe gatim
Kamva dayalum saranam rajema.
Kamva dayalum sharanam rajema.
Is it translation and purport?
Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he who granted the position of mother to a she-demon Putna, although she was unfaithful and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breasts. Purport. Here is an example of extreme mercy of the Lord, even to his enemy. It is said that a noble man accepts the good qualities of a person of doubtful character, just as one accepts nectar from the stalk of a poison. In his babyhood, he was administered deadly poison by Putna, a she-demon who tried to kill the wonderful baby. And because she was a demon, it was impossible for her to know that the Supreme Lord, even though playing the part of a baby, was no less than the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. His value as the Supreme Lord did not diminish upon his becoming a baby to please his devotee Yashoda. The Lord may assume the form of a baby or a shape other than that of a human being, but it doesn't make the slightest difference. He is always the same Supreme. A living creature, however powerful he may become, by dint of the severe penance, can never become equal to the Supreme Lord. Lord Krishna accepted the motherhood of Putna because she pretended to be an affectionate mother, allowing Krishna to suck her breast. The Lord accepts the least qualification of the living entity and awards him the highest reward. That is the standard of his character. Therefore, who but the Lord can be ultimate shelter?
Yeah. So this verse glorifies the famous pastime of Putana Daman. That This Putana came to give poison to Krishna, and Krishna gave him the position of being Dhatri. So now, certainly, Krishna is very merciful, but that means Krishna gave even a better position to other residents of Vrindavan, other ladies of Vrindavan. So there's a verse 10.6.70, So those who want can note it down, 10.6.37.38. So this is verse says, Padvyam bhakti visistabhyam vandabhyam loka vandete angam yasya samakramya bhagavan api tatstanam yatu dhanya pisa sargam avapa jananim gatim Krishna bhakta stana chira kimugavo anumataraha. So this verse says, Padvyam bhakti visistabhyam. Those lotus feet which devotees keep in the heart and worship them. Vandabhyam lok vandite. And the entire world worships those lotus feet. And what Krishna did is, Angam yassa samakramya bhagavan api tatstanam. So Krishna didn't just touch his lotus feet by kicking Putana. Krishna allowed Putana to fully embrace him. Devotees are just desiring lotus feet, and Putana got fortune of completely embracing Krishna. What a good fortune. And not only that, Bhagavan api tatstanam. He even sucked her breast. Na? And in return, what Krishna gave? Yatu dhani api sa swargam. Krishna made her president of Golo Vrindavan. Avap jananim gatim. He became Janvi. Then Krishna bhakta sthana chira kima gavan mataraha. Then what to say of the cows and the ladies of Vrindavan who actually got an opportunity to feed their milk to Krishna in a favorable spirit. So Putana entered an unfavorable spirit and got such a high position, then what to say to the position of cows and ladies of Vrindavan. So that is how Krishna is very merciful even to the wicked, and what to say of somebody is worshipping Krishna with a favorable spirit. So we have a greater fortune by Prabhupada's mercy, that we can worship Krishna with a favorable spirit. And if we continue serving Krishna like that, then the highest destination is guaranteed. So this verse gives a lot of hope to all of us. Okay, so it's already 1 o'clock. We'll continue our class tomorrow again at 10 o'clock. And continue with sweet passion of Krishna. Chandra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, Vancha Kalpadu Vaisa Kripa Sindhu Vaisa, Pachidana Pavanu Vaishnavu Namo Namo. Hare Krishna.